Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. Let's start off with the National Hurricane Center homepage today in the Atlantic. Lots of activity to monitor here in the Atlantic right now, and probably much more things and areas to watch beyond what the National Hurricane Center has highlighted, at least on the tropical weather bulletin right now. And in fact, we'll probably get some more areas highlighted. Would not be surprised in the coming minutes with the 8 p.m. tropical weather outlook, but I'll probably update you that once it happens on Twitter. But in the meantime, actually, the 8 p.m. tropical weather update is already out. So never mind about that. But maybe tomorrow and in the coming days, we might see more than just these two areas of interest that we have in the Atlantic right now, which is still a lot. We have Tropical Storm Dexter, which is strengthening today, but is probably on its way out and very quickly going to become an extratropical system. And then we obviously have our area here off the southeast coast, which is looking more like it'll probably develop well away from the East Coast if it does develop at all, because models have kind of downtrended on this system a little bit. And then we have our area here, newly designated Invest 96L in the tropical Atlantic. And this still has a chance to develop, although it's looking more and more likely that this will probably stay out to sea. But there have been new developments, especially in the last day or so. If you look at the European ensembles, lots of activity beginning to uptick in the Caribbean and the Western Atlantic within the next week. Within the next week, not just the next week to 10 days, but within the next week, within the next 5 days. And I would not be surprised if something gets highlighted here in the Western Atlantic, whether it be the Gulf or whether it be near the islands and the Western MDR. Something I think is going to get highlighted here in the MDR very shortly, and probably would not be surprised if it happens sometime tomorrow. But I'll get to that in just a moment. Here's a quick look at the Eastern Pacific, though, with tropical activity, because obviously there is still stuff happening in the Eastern Pacific right now. We have Tropical Storm Henriette, still a storm that we're tracking, although probably will not be something that is very formidable. It's probably just going to be something that'll just be there in the background. And then we have Tropical Storm Ivo, which formed today. Maximum sustained winds at 40 miles per hour, minimum central pressure 1,008 millibars. So Eastern Pacific, after all, even as things are starting to get more active in the Atlantic, Eastern Pacific is still producing activity right now. Here's a quick satellite image of the Atlantic, and you can see definitely some areas that we need to watch. We obviously have convective activity here off the East Coast, and this will be something that we need to watch over the next several days, but will probably be something that will remain off the East Coast, because if you remember a few days ago, we had interests off the southeast here, and it looked like this thing could potentially get very close to the Carolinas coast, but now it's looking more like if anything does develop, it'll probably happen off the East Coast. And then we have Tropical Storm Dexter looking very sheared right now, and in fact you can see on the latest frames that we had a convective burst that kind of dies away with Dexter, and this storm is probably on its way to becoming an extratropical system very shortly. So Dexter is probably on one of its last advisories before the National Hurricane Center declares it a post-tropical system. So really no need to worry about Dexter anymore, at least in terms of, tropical terms. And then we have the MDR here, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to have to watch the MDR, not just right now where we have Invest 96L, which is roughly in here, but overall with the MDR, it looks like lots of potential development areas are going to come out of there in the next week. And again, it's all part of a ramp up that I've been saying was going to happen for the last 2 weeks now, and we are starting to see it come to fruition, I do believe, with activity that's probably on its way within the next week or so here in the MDR. And obviously it starts with 96L, but I'll show you the models obviously for 96L. It's going to probably head on out to sea. In fact, let me actually bring up the current model guidance for you, at least for 96L right now. And I'll just show you, here's the 12Z model guidance for the Canadian. As you can see, takes an out to sea track, stays well north of the islands, doesn't even get anywhere close to the east coast of the United States, maybe gets somewhat close to Bermuda, but that's about it. And then here's the GEFS ensemble members for 96L. Stays once again well out in the open Atlantic. So 96L probably will not be the biggest of our concerns over the next week. Although I'll show you the intensity guidance here for 96L, at least as of the 18Z model run. Most models, although there aren't a lot of models right now really running for 96L, most of them do indeed show this developing and probably becoming a tropical storm. In fact, some of them actually even take it to hurricane status within the next week. So 96L will probably be a somewhat decent storm, but it's looking more and more likely that will remain out to sea. It's really, as I'll show you in a little bit, stuff that we're going to have to watch in the Western Atlantic. Again, back towards the Gulf and the Caribbean, and eventually the MDR beyond the 7 to 10 day time frame when things will really start getting interesting, especially for us, as potential impacts here in the Atlantic. As I mentioned a little bit yesterday with the pattern, definitely going to get very interesting. But I'll just show you the models in a little bit. Things will start to get interesting beyond 96L. But here's a satellite image really quickly of the Eastern Pacific. And we have Tropical Storm Ivo, which formed, or Ivo, right off the Mexican coastline. This is going to move on out to the west-northwest. Will not make a direct landfall in Mexico, but obviously, as you can see on the satellite picture, definitely will bring some gusty winds and heavy rains associated with its outer bands. So definitely along the Mexican coast, you'll want to keep that in mind. And once again, just showing you the track. Going to stay off away from the Mexican coastline, so no direct landfall will happen. Might become a hurricane, though, just south of the Baja on Friday, so we might get another hurricane here in the Pacific, just adding more to the totals in an already very active Pacific basin so far, but then it'll probably die out once we get to the end of the weekend, and we won't have to worry about it then. But we will have to worry about, and again, I'll continue to mention this as a huge issue. Here are the rip current risks. Not much in the way of rip current risks for Mexico, but there is definitely a bit of a rip current risk for southwestern California. And I guess this map only includes, the rip current risk for the United States, because I'm pretty sure if I were to find any sort of map from the Mexican government weather service or whatever, they probably would have quite a bit of a significant rip current risk for there as well. So keep in mind of the rip currents. Bottom line, that's pretty much what I'm trying to say, because obviously rip currents are in direct impact caused by tropical systems, even though they might not be making direct landfall. Rip currents are very risky, life-threatening, very high waves. And sometimes people's lives can be taken if they're not careful enough. So keep in mind of the rip current risk, including if you are in Southern California, because obviously there will be quite a bit of tropical activity here in the Pacific still for the next week. So don't keep your guard off, or don't let your guard off when it comes to rip currents. That's all I'm saying. But in the meantime, if you are a surfer, you'll definitely probably be enjoying the high waves that'll remain in the Eastern Pacific for the next few weeks. Here's a 850 millibar shot of how vorticity is looking at least in the Atlantic, and you kind of see bits and pieces of the Eastern Pacific too. Here's Tropical Storm Ivo here in the Eastern Pacific. Definitely has a nice vorticity signature associated with it, and it's probably going to strengthen and obviously become a hurricane just off the Baja Peninsula, as I just showed you, in the next few days. As you can see, we have the vorticity signature with Dexter. Very nice and well-rounded, but probably going to be an extratropical system very shortly here. In fact, and I just showed you with the satellite, convective activity pretty much dying, and satellite data from earlier today, indicating that this is almost completely reattaching with the sort of frontal system here in the northeastern Atlantic. So once again, Dexter probably on its way out from becoming a tropical system. So not much to really say about that. You could also see here some of the energy that we're watching off the southeast coast. Definitely a little vorticity associated with it right now. Obviously, nothing compared to Dexter or even Ivo here in the Pacific. So definitely, he'll still has ways to go, but the development chance is still there for something to occur off the East Coast as it moves away from the East Coast over the next several days. And then we have, of course, a very aggressive tropical wave here in the MDR, which we'll be watching. And just to put it all into perspective for you, here's the wind shear map in the Atlantic, and this is what I've been saying was going to happen. Very low wind shear values throughout the entire basin, the entire MDR green. Good chunk of the Caribbean also green when it comes to favorability with wind shear. Off the East Coast as well, green, although in the Northeast, kind of red with the shear right now, so higher shear conditions there still. But in the Gulf especially, also green. And this is all very important because I showed you yesterday sea surface temperatures all throughout the entire Caribbean and Gulf and the entire Atlantic, much above normal. Obviously not as warm as last year, but still much above normal. And everything is pretty much just lying there. It's just a matter of when are we going to get something to actually form and take advantage of conditions that we have in the Atlantic basin. And that brings me to the European ensemble run, and I'm actually showing you the European ensembles through Tropical Tidbits. Usually I show them on Weather Nerds, but today thought I would make things a little bit more simple and just use one tab to show all of the models. So let me show you here the European ensembles. Obviously you can see the ensembles here with Dexter that moves on out to sea. And then this is as we get into the weekend. Notice as we have some of these ensembles here that begin to show up in the Gulf. It's a very weak little system. I think it's associated with the wave that was very big on the models about a week or two ago here in the MDR and in the Western Atlantic. And I guess a portion of the energy from that wave makes it into the Gulf. And very few ensemble members show something, but as I just showed you, shear is very, very low in the Gulf. And I also mentioned on Twitter not long ago that sea surface temperatures are very warm, 30, 31 degrees Celsius throughout the entire open northern Gulf. And so you never know if something is going to be able to quickly, try to spark up and tighten before it moves inland. It certainly happened before, and it's August. Anything could happen in the tropics. And then notice as well, this is around 3 to 4 days out. You start seeing something here begin to spin up in the Western MDR, and then it kind of traverses the Caribbean. And unlike all of the other runs that you see right now out there, with massive hurricanes 10 to 15 days out impacting Florida and the East Coast, I'm actually interested in this signal quite a bit because this is the European ensembles 90 hours out. So this is roughly three and a half, 4 days out. Already something coming into the islands, and that definitely looks like an aggressive wave in the very least. And obviously, as I just showed you, conditions are favorable. We have low wind shear and obviously very warm sea surface temperatures. We're going to have to watch very closely, and then it traverses through the Caribbean and then into the Gulf, where again everything is just warm, warm, warm all throughout this entire region. And then obviously, as you can see here, in the Northern Atlantic, we have our 96L, which will probably stay out to sea. Luckily, at least it's looking that way right now, although you never notice. But a lot of things to be looking out for here in the next week. And then let me really quickly show you what the GFS has for the 18Z model run. And not too much activity. The GFS kind of sometimes some runs it shows development and interesting stuff here. at least within the next week. And then sometimes it kind of, dilly-dallies into fantasy. Like I'm pretty sure if you look throughout the entire run, this run on the 18th seed, you'll definitely see it gets pretty wacky. But at least in terms of development, you can see something happens here off the East Coast. This is associated with our area of interest, so that might have a pocket of favorability well off the East Coast while it's already moving on to the Northeast, so probably won't have to worry about anything significant from that. And then we have our Invest 96L here, develops as it stays out to sea, probably will become a decent system. And then, as you can see here, roughly 7 to 8 days out, something trying to consolidate here in the Caribbean, and I'm pretty sure that does. Let's really quickly go back to the European ensembles. Does that overlay with the ensembles members? Yes, it does, with the 12Z showing something here getting into the Caribbean around just over 7 to 8 days out. And it originates from some sort of wave here starting around 3 to 4 days out. So I would actually pay attention to that very closely. And I'll definitely go more in depth about it tomorrow, especially if we do get something mentioned by the National Hurricane Center, which I think will happen very soon. And I'm mentioning these things like this, signal here in the Caribbean, even though it's not the main signal that a lot of the models are hinting at, because sometimes these signals tend to go kind of under the radar, and then they kind of blow up in everybody's faces at the last minute. So I just, want to keep a watchful eye, and we'll see what happens in the next few days here in the tropics. But one thing is for sure, as I've been saying over the last few weeks, things were going to get active, especially around this time. And look what's happening. It's definitely starting to get very active, and we're probably going to have quite a bit to talk about for at least the next few weeks here in the Atlantic. And it's only going to continue. We are literally just in early August. It's just the first week. We still have a long way to go. We still have an entire ramp up to go this month before we reach the peak early next month. And probably for a good chunk of next month, things will be really active. So definitely keep a watchful eye to the tropics. And of course, we'll be continuing to do that here every day for the next few weeks. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you enjoyed it and found it with good information or useful, and share this video as well with family and friends, as I've always been saying. And with that being said, I'm going to end it off for today's video. Hope you enjoyed what you saw today, and enjoy the rest of your evening and night. Stay safe, peace, love, and kindness to you all. And of course, I'll be back with more tomorrow.